The Oklahoma City Thunder are back in the Western Conference Finals. What are the X factors for their matchup with the Minnesota Timberwolves?
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast or the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, beat writer for Thunder on SI, and media member Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're diving into the Oklahoma City Thunder making their return to the Western Conference Finals, the X factors of that series, the storylines of that series, and the predictions with Michael Martin at Michael on Sports across social media. Let's Talk Thunder on YouTube. Michael, the Thunder did it. They won a second-round series. They beat a quality opponent in the postseason. What was your just general reaction to Game 7, which also could linger into your reaction to the entire series?
Overall, for Game 7, it was just like you said, they did it. Like, we're all just kind of sitting there, and there was a big lead, so you knew it was going to happen. It wasn't a big stunning ending, but just, there were a lot of doubts of wondering if this team was ready, if it was a year too early. They did look really nervous and tight towards the beginning of the game, which had me nervous, but the Thunder got down early and then never looked back after trailing the first 14 and change. They never went down again in Game 7 and just sort of just boat raced them from there.
Yeah, I mean, the poise that they showed in a Game 7, I thought just kind of encapsulated that entire series, because that was the thing that at times was holding them back. I mean, a lot of people would be pointing to Game 1 today if Game 7 went differently, of like, were they ready for that moment, fouling up 3 too soon, and kind of all that unraveled at the end of Game 1. The close game that they lost in Game 3 and getting kind of really boat raced in overtime against Denver in Game 3. That was another game where people questioned if they're ready. Then they win Game 4 in a muddy fashion, win Game 5 on their home floor despite Jokic going crazy. And like in Game 7, when, with all due respect to Denver, like Denver was kind of playing with house money. Obviously, when you're in the arena, you feel like you can make a run now, but they had to battle through a lot, and hat tip to them for fighting through the Michael Porter Jr. injury, fighting through a series where Jokic was still awesome because he's the best player in the world, but he was slowed in this series more than any other series. And of course, the Aaron Gordon injury that suffered in Game 6 that he tried to fight through in Game 7. The fact that he was able to walk on the floor was a big deal, regardless of what he did in the game, which he was a big part of, growing that first and only lead from Denver. You get down, double digits in a Game 7, and you're not making your shots, and you're having a few too many defensive lapses. And it felt like for that period of time, okay, maybe the moment is too big for this young team. But then Alex Caruso checks in. He turns the energy in the building. He turns the energy of the team up to 11, and the Thunder go on their own run to blow this game out of the water, getting up over 40 points, 43-point lead at one point in this Game 7 to coast to their first Western Conference Finals, 6-20-16. And that poise that they showed throughout this series kind of, to me, shows that what they did in the regular season is translating to the postseason.
Yeah, it felt like in real time, we've watched this team grow over the course of the season, but it felt like the 7-game series was it was force-feeding by Denver of just like all of your puberty and growing pains happening at one time for the Thunder team. And I think in the long term, this series is going to be something we look back to a lot of times of, the Thunder before this didn't have a lot of point of references of like, you remember when we got through this game, remember when we had this big lead, we blew it, then we came back in another game. And it seems like they experienced all the highs and lows that you can do in a playoffs all in one series. So just super impressed with them. You mentioned Caruso, the job he did on Jokic was absolutely unbelievable. And we have to give some praise to J-Dub. He's been a guy that we've, had some questions about, rightfully so. He's been playing sort of up and down. He was a little bit touchy early on, but then he just went off in terms of just like getting out on transition. He made a few threes, played really, really well in a game where the Thunder absolutely needed it.
So without spoiling our predictions, I do think that the first voyage into Thunder Timberwolves is me disagreeing with the national premise that, like, you saw John Hollinger and others nationally talking throughout this Denver Thunder series of like, well, this is the finals. This is it. Whoever wins this series is really going to be our next NBA champion. To me, that's way too dismissive of a really good Minnesota Timberwolves team, much less what's happening out east, solely focusing now on Minnesota. what was your initial gut reaction now that you let yourself think about Thunder versus Timberwolves a few hours after Game 7? Do you think that this is going to be a hard-fought series? Kind of what's your gauge on how these two teams match up as a kind of a 90-foot view before we dive in?
I think the Nuggets will be the hardest team and the hardest matchup that this Thunder team has had, but that doesn't mean that Minnesota is going to be easy. I think that they're definitely going to make them work. We saw, and we've talked about it a lot, every bit of the zone defense that Denver threw out is going to be tenfold by Minnesota. You're not going to have the same offensive problems. You're not going to have a playmaking hub like Jokic. But I'm feeling decent about this. I'm feeling decently confident for this Thunder team, but we'll get into predictions later. But yeah, any notion that this series is just going to be just a boat race where the Thunder just sort of dog walk them, I think is sort of crazy. I mean, anything can happen. We've seen how dominant this team has been. But I think this Minnesota team has a lot of dog and is going to put up a real level of fight in this series, and they're going to go down swinging.
Yeah, I mean, we won't spoil the predictions. I do think that this series will be extended for a long period of time between these two teams because of what Minnesota can do. And it's like you look at what Denver found success with. A lot of that is just what Minnesota does normally, and they've been one of the best teams in basketball over these last couple of months, really since March 1st. So the Timberwolves deserve a ton of credit, and they have their own like engine in Anthony Edwards that the Thunder are going to have to match up with. Obviously, a very different test for this Thunder team compared to what the test of Jokic was, and I think that test 1-for-1 benefits OKC not just because Jokic is a better player than Anthony Edwards, but because of positionally where they're at. Of like you are going to be more equipped for this Thunder roster to handle a lead guard than you would the offensive hub that is Nikola Jokic. I think that's the case for a lot of teams, but specifically the Thunder and how their roster is built, where they can just throw a ton of lead guard defenders, point of attack defenders at you for 48 minutes, and there's no rest for Minnesota. There's no rest in this series for them to try to find comfortability offensively. But ultimately, I think that can be said for both sides, where this is a series, I think, that will be played in the muds. And if you're someone out there who maybe you're just flying in and listening to this as a non-bias and party here, this is the series for you if you love early aughts basketball, if you love the old school way of playing, because I do think that both teams will labor offensively at times. Both teams will play a physical style of defense, and it will be everything of yesteryear that you wanted from your basketball, led by two guys who play a kind of throwback style of doing it inside the arc. And Anthony Edwards has done a great job reinventing his game and being a lethal shooter and having more of that three-point shot to his game. Shai's improved at that area to a lesser extent as well, but their bread is buttered inside the arc, at the rim, in the mid-range, and all the ways that they can create for themselves. I think this will be a very compelling basketball series. Now, regardless of who wins, I do think that the Thunder have a bit more edges in this series over Minnesota. We'll talk about those edges that the Thunder have, the storylines to watch for, and the X factors of this series all coming up. But first, I want to say right now, our good friends over at Car Guru, folks. Shopping for a car should be exciting, not exhausting. Between the confusion in pricing and the hidden fees, it can feel overwhelming to try to get a new car. That's why I love Car Gurus. They help you cut through all the noise and show you the best deals with full confidence that you're getting those great deals. With over 4 million listings, Car Gurus has more new and used cars than any other major online marketplace in the U.S. They have verified dealers, they provide real price analysis, and give you the tools and data you need to make the right decision without second-guessing yourself. If you need a deal you can trust, Car Gurus makes it easy for you to compare vehicles side by side with unbiased deal rankings. It's no wonder that SimilarWeb estimates traffic data shows Car Gurus is the #1 most viewed car shopping site. Buy or sell your new car today with Car Gurus at cargurus.com. Go to cargurus.com to make sure your big deal is the best deal. That's cargurus.com, cargurus.com. We're back on the Lockdown Thunder podcast, on the Lockdown Podcast Network, your teams every day, here talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder making their return to the Western Conference Finals and taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves with Michael Martin. Let's talk Thunder on YouTube. Michael, when you look at this series, I think that each team has a distinct identity, which makes it fun to preview. This is also a unique spot for the Thunder as we start talking storylines. The first time that this team has had the rest disadvantage heading into a series, in their entire existence with this group of players and with Mark. So that'll be a unique curveball of rest versus rest. And if they can carry the momentum that they found in game 7 into game 1 on Tuesday night inside the Paycom Center. But we're going to list off some X factors. We're going to list off some ways that the Thunder can find success. To me, the biggest deal in all of this is that the Thunder can go back to their fastball. And to me, their fastball is lone big lineups. You look at just the lineups with Chet Holmgren, without Jay Will and without Isaiah Hartenstein. It's only Chet Holmgren on the floor in your big man category. So far in the postseason, there has been 267 such possessions, according to Cleaning the Glass. They rank in the 100th percentile offensively at plus 34.8 points as a differential. Offensively, they also have 137.8 points per possession with Chet on the floor as the lone big. And then defensively, they're in the 96th percentile of points per possession allowed, 103.1. Really good stuff from this grouping, and a grouping that I think will be more than satisfactory against Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves, of having Chet anchor your defense and being able to flank Chet with 4 just absolute hounds, at minimum 3 absolute hounds that you can stick onto Edwards with Caruso, Wallace, Lou, J-Dub. All these guys are fantastic. And I think that when you look at how Minnesota can still throw a big lineup out there, I trust J-Dub on Julius Randle, and perhaps I'll be proven wrong on that. I trust that Rudy is not the offensive player that you want to just give away post-ups to if you're the Minnesota Timberwolves. Perhaps that they do, and to me, it's a lot like bunting in baseball. The Thunder should welcome the Timberwolves halting their offense and just tossing it into Rudy onto Chet. I think that Chet will get enough stops to where it just equates to, like bunting, an out and a free one at that. And then from there, you have how the Thunder can attack Anthony Edwards with Caruso and Wallace / Dort / J-Dub, with SGA being no slouch on that end either defensively. And then offensively, I think it just makes everyone more comfortable. We talk a lot about how it helps Chet offensively to play by himself as a big, and it does. It makes the decisions and the reads off the catch, I think, a lot easier for him to find success. Either he's going to have an open 3 and launch it, or he'll be able to take that closeout and exploit it with a pull-up mid-range jumper or getting all the way to the rim, spitting to the basket like he loves. But I also think it makes J-Dub more comfortable playing with only one big, and he's found success with both big men. But just the spacing that they provide with only one of them on the floor at a time, I think makes him a lot more comfortable. Shai's awesome no matter what, but obviously the driving lanes are easier with just one big. So to me, that's the biggest difference in these two series. Where are you at on single big, double big?
I think they'll give a variety of both. One of the points I actually had was, I think we're going to see more J-Will minutes. I think that we're going to see more lineups with him and Chet involved where they put J-Will on Randle. I think he matches up with him really well. But I think you can have less fear about the solo big lineups of just like, unless it was just Hartenstein on Jokic, I think you felt pretty confident. But Chet on Jokic, other than Game 7, whenever you put Caruso on him, I felt like there were some ups and downs throughout that. But I agree with you offensively. I think that's hard to really dispute because Hartenstein is a passer. You want more spacing. You want more cutting. Chet can catch lobs, but he's not much of just a dynamic cutter. J-Dub, he definitely needs more driving lane. Shai is going to be Shai, like you mentioned, and then Chet offensively, the more space, the better. So I'm really interested to see that. I want to see how March sort of changes the rotations. Like we saw Game 7 is one thing, but in a new series, does he sort of, I don't want to say just devolve back into the rotation, but does he return to sort of the 10-man that we saw before? Or is this sort of like 8-9 man sort of just what we're going to see from now on? I think that's going to be really interesting. You mentioned Gobert's offense. I wonder how they're going to leverage that because, boy, oh boy, you can't go from a different offensive juggernaut of a hub between Rudy Gobert and Nikola Jokic. I think this team, this Thunder team, the defense is going to look really sharp off rip because, for one, they're just so relieved not to see that guy anymore. So I think you're going to see some different looks. And then you hit it on a little bit that I'll expand upon. But Anthony Edwards and just the rest of the ball handlers. I don't trust any of the ball handlers for Minnesota. I think their most consistent one is going to be Ant or Mike Conley. And both of those guys, whether it's Conley just because of his age or Ant just because he's a young player, we've seen some turnovers get forced from those guys. So I think the Thunder are going to have a real chance to get off and running, which is their bread and butter defensively, just generating turnovers and being disruptive. But I think this series is going to be super, super interesting tactically, just to see what both coaches do.
Yeah, and we hit on that on Locked On NBA Game Night on Tuesday night, so you can go, well, Tuesday morning, I guess, so you can go check that out as well, because the big question that we had for Minnesota was, can they protect the basketball? Because this Thunder offense in the half court, no matter if you get to throw your fastball or not, I think with that solo big, is still going to labor in the half court, because this Minnesota zone defense is going to be stellar. I mean, that and the Cavs zone defense has given the Thunder the most fits throughout the regular season, for as much fits as they had as a 68-win club. And they can do what Denver did to the nth degree on that end of the floor. How do you solve that? Well, you can't go out there and acquire new talent. It's the conference finals. Yeah, and you can't have a summer of getting better. You can solve that in similar ways what you did in Game 7, just hardly ever have to go to the half court and not ever take the ball out of the basket and let them get set up in that zone. You're always getting the rebound and pushing the pace. You're getting in the pass lanes and getting turnovers and pushing the pace. How does Minnesota handle the swarming nature and ball hawking of this Thunder defense? And do they see a high turnover number throughout this series? Because if they do, that's really bad news for Minnesota. So I completely agree there. And then another big X factor to me is, as always, 3-point shooting, because Locked On Wolves had a great confidence in this series on the Minnesota side. He's very confident in the Timberwolves' ability to find open corner 3-point shooters. And I think that is tying into our last point of, like, well, can you make those passes and cleanly get the ball to those open corner 3-point shooters? But also, can you knock those shots down consistently enough to hurt Oklahoma City? Because you're absolutely going to get them. Like the Thunder for 2 straight seasons now have surrendered open corner threes. They've surrendered them to guys that they feel comfortable shooting. Sometimes they've gotten burned, like PJ Washington and Derek Jones Jr. Other times they've not gotten burned, like this last Denver series, where neither team feels great about how they shot, except for Denver in Game 3 feels great about how they shot the ball in that specific game. But that was one game of a 7-game sample where they really burned OKC from beyond the arc at home. Denver will get those open corner threes. Can they cash them in consistently enough, and can they produce them with their table setters consistently enough? And then for the Thunder, what's the best way and the only way really to loosen up this Minnesota zone defense and to then create those mismatches where you're going to have to cross-match Rudy off of Chet and give Chet a bit of a mismatch if you can force them out of that zone? It's by delivering on the open threes that were there all 7 games in that Denver series. Open threes were there throughout that Memphis series. Open threes were there throughout that Dallas series, and you just couldn't cash them in. This is the time now where you have to produce from beyond the arc. And I think that in large part, this series can get decided by who finds more success with their supporting cast hitting threes.
Yeah, are we going to see Lou Dort return to the form we saw him in the regular season? Are we going to see Alex Caruso continue to shoot well from 3? Cason Wallace, what's he going to look like? Aaron Wiggins has been sort of hit and miss. Isaiah Joe, is he even going to be back in the rotation? We don't know. Jay Will was a big part of making threes in those rotation minutes against Denver. So the 3-ball definitely is going to change a lot. But this matchup, I think, is going to be super interesting. And then I'm curious on your side, who do you think matches up the best with Anthony Edwards out of those 3 guards and even potentially J-Dub?
I think that Cason Wallace will have a lot of success, and I think that Alex Caruso will have a lot of success for both similar and different reasons. I think that the size and ability to play bigger than he is with Alex Caruso can give Anthony Edwards a unique look, but I think that the quickness and the ability to stay attached to Edwards from Cason Wallace will give him some tough looks as well. So I do think that those 2 guys, when it's all said and done, even though I'm just 100% assuming that you're going to start with Lou on Ant, I think that when it's all said and done, those 2 guys will have the most success against him.
Yeah, I think you're going to see something where Lou sort of just tries to wear him down, and then you see the second wave of defenders of those guys that you mentioned, of Caruso and Cason, and I'm right there with you. I think Cason's probably my choice just because of the speed and athleticism of a guy like Ant, and I don't know that anybody on this team can test threes better than Cason Wallace, and Anthony Edwards, especially against a Thunder defense, can be so stifling. He's going to get 7, 8, 9 threes up per game, so I think that's where I go, but you can't really go wrong with Caruso, especially in schemes where they might want to switch, where you might want to put a ball screen on with Randall and you switch that, where you might have Dub switch on to Ant. So I think there's a lot of options here, but I think this Thunder team defensively matches up really, really well with Minnesota.
Yeah, they will match up well, I think, and it will just come down to, can Minnesota protect the basketball? Because if they can't, it'll be a very tough one for the old Timberwolves. But the Timberwolves can do things that make OKC's life difficult as well with their zone defense, with just stalling out OKC in the half court if they can force this into a half court game. But coming up, we'll talk storylines, we'll talk predictions, and we'll get you set for game one of the Western Conference Finals. But first, I want to say right now, but good friends over at Skims, go check out Skims today, because when I found out Skims was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. I've heard so much about their quality from friends and family, so I had to give it a try. And let me tell you what, it lives up to the hype. When I get back from these long trips, it's always great to reset, clean the house, do the laundry, have everything at your disposal ahead of a pivotal Western Conference series. We want to look your best and feel your best. Skims at the very top of the pecking order in that underwear drawer, because Skims sent us some pairs and I had to go buy some more and have my whole wardrobe decked out in Skims underwear, because they're so great. Whether you like boxers or boxer briefs or whatever your style is, they have it for you. They move with you and never lose their shape. It stays perfectly in place the entire day, folks. Whether you are a working man or a podcasting man, you're able to find what you want at Skims. Go to skims.com/LockedInNBA at Skims stores as well. Let them know that we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu box that follows. Skims is the official underwear partner of the NBA, WNBA, and USA Basketball. Again, skims.com/LockedOnNBA. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Thunder basketball. Here with Michael Martin at Michael on Sports across social media. Let's Talk Thunder on YouTube. Michael, give me some storylines. And this is a little bit of a cheat, so if you still want to just count X factors as storylines, go ahead. But is there any specific storylines that you're watching for in this series?
I mean, Ant versus Shai is going to be the one, probably, of just I think that there's this sort of changing of the guard of who's going to be the next face of the league. We know Jokic is the best player in the league, but he doesn't want to be that guy. And I think the league is really, really starting to reckon with the fact that you can't just rely on Steph and LeBron and Durant anymore for ratings, and they're looking for that next guy. And I think whoever comes out of this series is going to have a major marketing push behind them. You've got two really charismatic guys in different ways. Quiet confidence from Shai, Anthony Edwards, loud trash talker. But it's going to be super, super interesting to see those two go back and forth. And then just more and more of just these sort of young teams on the rise, as we've seen a lot of contenders fall out. It's sort of the same as what I said about those two young stars, but the teams in general too.
I think that's a great storyline. I mean, it's the Aura Bowl, as the kids have been calling it. I only know that because Clemente Almanza has called it the Aura Bowl for about 4 months now, in hopes that this is the series, because he's all about the internet and the traffic that comes from it. So I do know it's the Aura Bowl, as we try to get hip as an old soul. I will say another storyline is going to be the discourse around the series. Listen, Thunder fans, prepare yourself. Chris Finch is going to lose his ever-loving mind after every single game. The Minnesota Timberwolves will lose their ever-loving mind after every single game. Can the Thunder, for another 7-game series, be unapologetically themselves? Can they harass you, hound you, frustrate you, swarm you, suffocate you, and belittle you on the court the way that they did to Denver? Yes, Denver fans, you can cry all you want to about all the officiating. Oh, it's rigged. It's rigged for the smallest market in the league. They get away with fouling all the time. Sure, okay, fine. The Thunder foul every single play. I don't care. You know what the Thunder actually do every single play? They outman you. They out-physical you. They just put you in the corner like the babies that you are, because they assault you every single play within the bounds of basketball. And what you're going to find out about ref discourse is nobody truly cares, right? Because whenever even Denver fans are 3 months removed from this series, guess what they're going to start talking about? I wish the NBA was the way it was back in my day, when you could really play defense. And then when they play a team that actually plays defense and really gets after you physically, it's just too much for me to handle. Stop hurting me. That's what happens, because fans don't care. Fans think that every call that goes against them and for the other piece of laundry on the court is a terrible call. And every call that goes for them and against the other piece of laundry on the court is the right call. That's all that it comes down to. So don't worry about it. Yes, Minnesota's going to lose their mind. Yes, it's going to be hilarious and frustrating all at the same time, but let them have their crying. Let them have their attention of like, well, the league's just against us, and let them coddle with that fact after the Thunder play 7 straight games of harassing basketball and go to the NBA championship and go to the NBA finals. So to me, the discourse around this will be a huge storyline because the Timberwolves will frankly make it a storyline. And you look at the teams who've made this storyline against OKC so far, Detroit, Denver, Minnesota. 2 of the 3 are at home. You have a chance to put the third one at home as well. Those have been the teams that have been the loudest complaining about the officiating from the OKC, and those 3 are on the chopping block. 2 of them are already in Cancun.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen notable tweets like, so we both enjoyed the city of Denver and the people there, but the Nuggets fans, like, every single game, it's like, oh, you'll never guess who's the official for tonight. It's like, do you guys like any of the referees, or are they all bad? Like, every NBA fan who really knows the game, or doesn't know the game, but watches it regularly, knows who Scott Foster is. Somehow every single fan base feels like Scott Foster is out to get them, and yet somehow a team wins and one team loses. And yeah, the Wolves are going to do that. They're going to critique it. They're not going to match physicality on some things. There's going to be some plays where Julius Randle throws his shoulder straight through a Thunder defender. It's not going to get called an offensive foul, and Wolves fans are going to yell, that's playoff basketball, that's big man basketball. So it's really just whatever bodes well for your team. That's what people are going to talk about. I mean, every NBA fan base, like we've talked about, Rylan, thinks that they're the underdog. The Lakers get Luka Doncic for a bag of chips, and then they go into the playoffs, lose in 5 games of the Wolves, and talk about how the league is rigged against them. So it's just sort of this underdog victim mentality that we see from a lot of teams. And you hit it right on the head. Chris Finch, these guys are going to complain. The Wolves in one of these games are going to have 20 more free throws than the Thunder probably, and still be mad about the lack of free throws they got. So this Thunder team, they don't really care. They're going to continue to sort of just put their nose to the grindstone, continue to play hard. And I'm right there with you. They just have to sort of block out the noise and hope that the officials don't get distracted by some of this media discourse of things to talk about. But that's going to be one of the major storylines because there's no big market, something to talk about. And a lot of these major outlets, national outlets, this is going to be one of the major talking points because the nuance of actual basketball is hard to talk about.
But Michael, you just don't get it. It's not about free throws. It's about that the Thunder foul every single play. How about you foul every single play? What's stopping you from doing it then? Set the tone. Set the tone of physicality that you want to be called. Yes, the Thunder foul a ton. The data shows it. They get called for the most fouls in the NBA for a reason, because they foul a lot. Why do they put themselves in position to foul a lot? Because they're always playing physically and aggressive, and they are fouling you. But you can't call everything. And the playoff whistle is the playoff whistle. So guess what? You got to do, Denver and Minnesota. You've also got to play physically. You've also got to incur some fouls to be able to say, well, they can't call everything, so let's just foul from the word go. Both teams should be playing the foul game in the sense of both teams should be accosting one another, because your right to an NBA championship is on the line in the next 7 games. And if you aren't willing to do your part and assault people legally in the basketball world, on the basketball court in a contact sport, I'm not here for the crying. I just am not. The Thunder foul every single play. Sure. Who cares? The refs are indeterminate of who calls the fouls. I don't call the fouls. I've never called a single foul in the NBA. Maybe I should be in charge. I think it'd be a lot better if I was. I'm not. So what does it matter? You're not either. And it reminds me of a slightly biased host of Locked On Mavericks who had a clip after people were just berating the Mavs for their lottery being rigged. Okay, it's rigged. I love it that it's rigged. It helped out your team. Sure, like whatever. It does not matter. The whistle is the whistle is the whistle. It's up to you to adjust. And we're going to see ebbs and flows of that whistle because NBA refs are naturally inconsistent. Like their only consistency is their inconsistency for NBA refs. Some games, they'll let you play more physically. Some games, they'll call ticky-tack fouls. It'll even out over the course of a 7-game series, and who can adjust game to game and within the 48 minutes of each parameters that are set better will win this series. No series will be determined by the officiating crew, no matter what JB Bickerstaff or the Denver Nuggets want you to believe. And we'll see if Minnesota falls in that same category. But with that being said, and with all the Timberwolves leaving hate comments by this minute marker in the pod, what is your prediction for this Thunder series against Minnesota?
One more thing on that. I might have a point you're not going to agree with or not like as a Chiefs fan, but it's sort of like the tush push with the Eagles, where it's like, why doesn't everybody do it? And it's like, because you don't have Alex Caruso, you don't have Casey Wallace, you don't have J-Dub, you don't have Dort, you don't have all these guys who can go do that. But my prediction for this series, I was going back and forth. I'm going to say Thunder in 6. I think that this layoff, I'm interested to see the rest versus resting because we've already seen the rest aspect of it. But I think this Thunder team pulls it out. I think that we're going to see a big series from Chet Holmgren on both ends. I think offensively we're really going to see him pop just because he doesn't have to play with the same grind of guarding guys like Aaron Gordon and Nikola Jokic. I think that Shai once again is going to be the most dominant player of the series. But I've got the Thunder in 6 going on to the NBA Finals.
So I've been deliberating over this series, and I've really been leaning Thunder in 6, in all honesty. I've really been leaning a shorter series. I predicted Thunder in 5 against Memphis, off by a game. Thunder in 7 against Denver, right on the money. Been close. I'm going to go Thunder in 7 because I do think that the Minnesota Timberwolves are not just going to roll over on their home hardwood in 6 games. I think that previously to that, it'll work out similar to Denver. It's like you split games 1 and 2, split games 3 and 4, Thunder win game 5. They have a chance to win game 6, and Minnesota plays great basketball. And then in game 7, anything can happen. It's a 1-game sample size at that point, but the Thunder's home court kind of carries them to their first NBA Finals bid since 2012. So I wouldn't be shocked, though, if the Thunder went in 6, whereas like whenever people were predicting Thunder in 5 and Thunder in 6, I would have been shocked if they finished off Denver in short order, shorter than 7. I wouldn't be shocked if the Thunder were able to finish off Minnesota in 6 games, but I do think that it'll take all 7 of them. I think that these two teams are very competitive, and like we've said throughout the show, there's a reason why Locked On Wolves is excited and confident. They should be. Both teams have gotten here for a reason. Both teams match up really well. I just think that we have a sample size and a body of work now over the course of an 82-game season and 2 playoff series that the Thunder find ways to win. The Thunder are the more talented team, and they're the most talented team left in the field. Now, they've got to go prove it. It's not going to be handed to them, but I will say Thunder win this series in 7 games.
Yeah, there are no bad teams in the conference finals. We're at the point where there are only 4 left, and all these teams, whether it be some circumstance, health reason, whatever, guys playing better, they are in these situations for a reason. And I'm right there with you. I picked the Thunder in 5 against the Nuggets. That proved to be a little bit ambitious. I thought that the Nuggets would be a little bit more gassed. It ends up getting them with the depth, but I think there's a real case of just those turnovers and the Thunder's ability, because you look back at the Wolves playoff series, there hasn't been one guy who matches up well with Randall. Not a single guy. And he's been super, super important and vital for this Wolves offense. The Thunder have a few guys who I think could handle him or at least limit him in a real way. Same thing with Anthony Edwards. Who was guarding Anthony Edwards on the Lakers or the Warriors? I mean, GP2 is a pretty good defender. You're going to have the 3 best defenders that Anthony Edwards is going to face off on the perimeter in the Western Conference throughout this playoff run is going to be in this series, whether it's Caruso, Dort, Kaysen, or maybe even Dub in that category. So I think that's one of those factors that could swing the other way, but you mentioned the confidence of Locked On Wolves. I can see his point of view of just the experience of some of those shooters and confidence of those role players that we've seen has been sort of shaky for the Thunder. So I think no matter what happens, we're in for a really, really good series.
This was a fun series preview. We still have our Locked On Wolves crossover before tip-off of Game 1, our Locked On NBA squad show before tip-off of Game 1, and of course, the Game 1 recap. And it's your team every single day, multiple times a day during this time of year. So make sure you subscribe to Locked On Thunder anywhere you get your podcast from, and Let's Talk Thunder on YouTube, where Michael has some special videos cooking up for you, which include...
We've got a Shai MVP video if he ever gets announced. If that's ever announced, if they just wait till next year, then maybe not. But definitely got a few things as we've got sort of a week here at home where I can really deep dive and edit some things. So definitely look forward to that.
Go check out Locked On Thunder YouTube and podcast. Check out Let's Talk Thunder on YouTube as well. And until next time, be good and be good to one another.